My boyfriend of 7 years married my
sister.
Everyone knew except for me. Even my parents kept it from me, terrified I'd make a scene and disrupt my sister's wedding. Yet I remained unusually calm, even going so far as to marry someone else. They all assumed I was distraught. But who was the better choice anyway? After finishing my overtime, the office was left with only the humming computer and scattered
lights.
Dragging my exhausted body, I leaned back in my chair, casually picked up my phone, and scrolled through my social media feed. Congratulations,
Chloe.
wishing you a lifetime of happiness. This post,
Accompanied by a
wedding invitation, jumped out at me.
my
Brows furrowed slightly, and I tapped the image to enlarge it and examine it
closely.
The words hit me like a thunderclap, instantly striking me.
The
cold light of the screen stung my eyes. I could barely believe what I was seeing, reading it 3 times over, before finally confirming this was the wedding of Ethan, my boyfriend of 7 years, and Chloe, my half-sister.
my
Fingertips trembled involuntarily, and it was as if someone was mocking my foolishness in my ear. Tears welled up in my eyes unexpectedly. Countless images flashed through my mind. Ethan's gentle smile, Chloe's sweet innocence, the peaceful family atmosphere my parents had never even hinted at. Everything began to twist, losing its original meaning. Rage quickly overshadowed my shock and grief. I stood up, grabbed my coat, pushed aside my chair, and strode towards the door.
The
cold wind hit my face, yet I felt a surging wave of heat intensify within
me.
I clenched my fists, only one thought burning in my mind. I'm going to the wedding venue to get an explanation myself. I stood outside the grand, looking at the flowers and festive wedding decorations arranged on both
sides.
Finding it utterly ironic, the cold wind wrapped around me, carrying a biting chill that seeped into my coat. But I couldn't feel it at all. My gaze
cut through
the crowd, landing on the 2 people standing on the stage, Ethan and Chloe. Ethan was dressed in a well-tailored black suit, a joy I hadn't seen on his face in a long time, while Chloe wore a pure white wedding gown, her head adorned with a sparkling crown, a sweet, innocent smile on her face, as if declaring her happiness to the world.
My
fingers were so stiff, I could barely grip the strap of my bag. Just as I was about to step forward, a familiar figure caught my eye. Patricia.
Patricia sat in
the front row, her face bearing a satisfied and proud smile, clearly unsurprised by the wedding. Anger surged through me like wildfire, and my steps unconsciously carried me toward the
crowd.
The surrounding guests noticed my arrival and began to whisper amongst
themselves.
Someone shouted, "Isn't that Chloe's sister? What is she doing here? What are you doing here?" Patricia's voice cut through the applause and music, sharp and abrupt. My face instantly fell. She quickly strode forward, grabbed my wrist firmly, and her grip was so strong it hurt. "Come outside with me. Don't make a scene here," Patricia hissed in a low voice, almost dragging me toward the door.
I
stood my ground, breaking free from Patricia's grip, making a scene.
I
should be asking you what in the world is going on. Why did my boyfriend marry my sister, and I knew nothing about it? A flicker of panic crossed Patricia's
face.
Then her tone hardened. You know, Chloe has depression and is sensitive to stress. This wedding is to make me
happy.
You should be considerate of me and not make a big deal out of this. You know, Robert dotes on me. If I'm happy, our family will be stable. Her words were like a blunt knife cutting into my heart blow by blow. I scoffed, my eyes filling with rage. What about me?
I'm
Your biological daughter. To please another man, you're willing to ruin your own daughter? As I was speaking, Chloe and Ethan on the stage had already noticed the commotion. They exchanged
Glan.
"See yes" and walked over.
Chloe.
Still looked innocent and sweet while Ethan's face, however, was so stiff he could barely maintain a smile. Sister, please don't be angry, Chloe said. First, her voice so fragile it sounded like it would shatter if touched.
I
Know this is a bit sudden for you, but I just wanted a wedding. I've always envied you since we were little, feeling like you had everything. Sister, can't you let me have my own happiness just this once? I sneered, my gaze sharp as a knife fixed on Ethan. And you, Ethan, what is this? Are you putting on an act? Or are you just humiliating me? Ethan's expression was complicated.
He sighed.
And explained in a low voice. This is just Chloe's wish. We haven't got officially married. It's just a pretend wedding. I just wanted to make her
Happy.
Her mental state isn't good.
You.
No, a bad mental state gives you permission to steal someone's boyfriend. My voice was low, but every word cut like a knife. I turned to Chloe.
You.
Want a wedding? That's your business. What does it mean that you didn't even notify me? A flicker of grievance flashed in Chloe's eyes, but she said nothing, maintaining an appearance of quiet endurance. Just then Ethan's expression changed. He stepped closer and lowered his voice. Don't make a scene anymore. This won't benefit you. Your game design just entered a critical phase, and I'm your biggest investor.
If
you keep making trouble, I'll have to withdraw my investment. I froze.
I
Stared at him as if I didn't recognize the person in front of me. Ethan, are you threatening me? Ethan continued calmly. If you don't make trouble after the wedding, I'll explain everything clearly to Chloe and we can get engaged immediately. I'm just fulfilling her small wish. There's no need to destroy everything. Chloe gently tugged Ethan's arm and said softly, Sister, don't be angry. We're truly doing this for your own good. After finished speaking, she stepped forward and whispered into my ear, Rister, your game design is really
good.
You'll definitely give in to me, just like before, won't you? After all, Mom, Dad, and your boyfriend all seem to
Be on my side.
Oh, and by the way, your boyfriend knows about this too. He'll even use all his company's resources to help me create this game.
So don't
worry, sister. After hearing that, I understood Chloe's intentions. Since childhood, she had taken everything from
me.
Prize-winning essays, beautiful dresses, toys, our parents' affection, and now my boyfriend. Because she had depression, I was always told to give in to her. I could give up all of that. But this game was the culmination of all my hard work, and she wanted to take that, too, for my own good. I sneered as disappointment and rage surged within me. I suddenly reached out, grabbing a wine glass and the tablecloth nearby. With a forceful tug, plates and glasses crashed to the floor. The sharp sound of shattering echoed through the hall, drawing everyone's attention. You scheme against me, threaten me, and then pretend it's for my own good. You're disgusting. I cast a cold glance at Patricia, Chloe, and Ethan, then turned and walked out of the wedding ballroom, leaving behind a stunned silence. After I walked out, I opened my phone and sure enough, headlines like Genius Chloe returns with her work flooded my screen. I trembled with rage as I saw the familiar draft and the familiar concept. The winter wind was biting. I practically stumbled out of the wedding ballroom. My palms were still faintly trembling, and I could still hear the mocking whispers in my ears. I felt my world collapse in an instant. Anger, grievance, and humiliation mingled into a tangled mess, and it felt as if a heavy stone was pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Suddenly the
world spun around me.
my steps faltered, and the scenery before me blurred. Finally, I collapsed weakly in front of a car, losing consciousness. When I woke up again, I saw a pre-pine white ceiling, and the air was filled with the distinct scent of hospital disinfectant. I moved my head and found myself lying on a hospital bed with an IV drip in my arm. "You're awake," a low male voice came from nearby. I turned my head to see a tall, well-built man sitting on the sofa in the hospital room. He had deep-set features, his eyes calm yet sharp, and he exuded a natural air of nobility. I froze for a moment, then recognized the person in front of me, Julian, the rumored influential magnate from the city's elite circles.
"You?" My
voice was full of confusion. "What are you doing here?" Julian stood up and walked a few steps closer to me.
His
gaze fell on my pale face. "You collapsed in front of my car, so I brought you to the hospital." "Thank you for bringing me to the hospital, Julian. I'll transfer the medical fees to you shortly." Julian didn't answer me but kept looking at me with his deep-set eyes, just as I couldn't stand the silence and was about
to speak.
"If you have something to do, you can go ahead. There's something
else."
He paused, his gaze meaningful. "Your boyfriend's wedding with your sister caused quite a stir." I froze, the color draining from my face. "What are you trying to say? How many people do you think you can hide this from?" Julian's tone was calm, but every word
pierced my sore spot.
"I'm not interested in them, but I am interested in you. Coincidentally, I need a wife right now, and marrying you would be perfect."
"What?"
I froze, unable to grasp his meaning for a moment. "Don't misunderstand," Julian said with a slight smile, his hands in his suit pockets. "My family is pushing me to get married, and I need a wife to appease them. And you need funding.
I
know your new game is almost complete, but without Ethan's investment, you'll probably find it hard to continue."
"What
exactly do you want?" My voice held a hint of caution. "You can't be that kind." "I'm just making a deal," Julian said, his express I uncon. "You don't want to get further entangled with Ethan, and I need a nominal wife. We each get what we
need.
I won't interfere with your private life, and in return I can invest in your game. I can also continue to invest in your games in the future. Of course, I'm sure you also don't want your ex-boyfriend and sister Chloe to have an easy time, and I can help you get revenge." I froze, my mind in turmoil. I knew Ethan would definitely withdraw his investment. That game was the culmination of all my hard work, and without funding it would never see the light of day. Besides, I didn't want Chloe and Ethan to get away with this so easily. Julian's money and resources could help me much more effectively.
But
marrying Julian, I knew nothing about. This man. "I need to think about it," I
said softly.
"You have one day." Julian leaned closer, his voice low and cool. "However, I think you'll make the choice that's most beneficial to you."
That
night, I looked at my project proposal. It was like my child. Every word and sentence was my own creation. I had already lost to Chloe once. This time, I didn't want to back down again.
A day
later, I made my decision. I signed the prenuptial agreement, agreeing to marry
Julian.
I had no retreat, perhaps because I hadn't made any moves. Recently, Ethan sent a message. "Don't be willful anymore. Come back to me." His tone was full of self-important arrogance. I didn't reply. I just locked my phone screen and gave it a cold glance. I doubted my judgment back then. unable to believe I'd been with such a person for so many years. Not long after, Ethan sent a more threatening message. Don't think you can really break free from me. You know my temper. If you continue like this, I will withdraw my investment. I smeared my fingertips quickly, typing fine on the
Keyboard.
Then I unhesitatingly blocked all of Ethan's contact information.
In
that moment, I felt a sense of relief I'd never felt before. From then on, Ethan no longer had a place in my life. 3 days later, the sun was shining
brightly.
I had just finished a meeting when my phone screen suddenly vibrated. Frantically, notification sounds coming in rapid succession. I picked up my phone, confused, and tapped on my social media feed. A pinned post caught my eye. Happy new marriage, my wife. Just a few words, yet it hit like a thunderclap out of nowhere. The post's accompanying image was a bright red marriage certificate. In the photo, 2 people stood side by side, a remarkably handsome man and a graceful, elegant woman. It was Julian and me. My mind went blank with a buzz, as if struck by a heavy hammer. My fingertips trembled slightly as I tapped to open the comments section. Sure enough, this social media post had already exploded. Am I seeing this right? The influential magnate is married. Is this for real? Who's the bride? I've never heard of her. What's this woman's background?
She
Got Julian to post their marriage certificate himself. The city's elite circles are in an uproar. The comments section instantly surged past 100, and messages were still skyrocketing. I even saw a few familiar names among them. Also questioning, wasn't she Ethan's girlfriend? How is she Julian's wife? My hand clenched slightly, a mix of emotions turning within me. I knew Julian's high-profile exposure of this social media post wasn't just a simple sharing of joy.
It was to announce to
everyone that I was now his legitimate wife and no one could threaten me with past events anymore. However, the impact of this social media post far exceeded my imagination. Meanwhile, at Chloe's house, Chloe was scrolling on her phone. When she saw the post, her face instantly turned ashen and her phone slipped from her hand. She picked up the phone in disbelief, staring wide-eyed at the photo on the screen. Impossible.
how
Could she marry Julian? What? Ethan, who was nearby, frowned at the words.
he
Leaned over to take a look, and his face instantly changed. Julian's name was undoubtedly a bombshell for him. Everyone in the city's elite circles knew Julian was an unshakable presence. And now his ex-girlfriend had actually become this man's wife. He quickly dialed my number, but only heard a cold, automated message. Sorry, the number you dialed has been blacklisted. Ethan froze, his hand clutching his phone, trembling faintly. He had never imagined that I would truly sever all ties with him, nor had he anticipated that I would choose to stand by Julian. After turning off my phone, I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. I knew that after this social media post was published, the line between Ethan and me was completely drawn. I also knew that what awaited me were countless speculations and rumors, but I no longer cared.
no
Matter what others thought of me, I understood that this was a transaction and the starting point of my new life, and those who had once hurt me would ultimately pay the price. Julian always acted decisively and kept his word. After he listened to my entire story, he immediately began to formulate a detailed plan for me. He utilized his
connections and resources in the
industry, mobilizing an elite team, including professional legal advisors, technical experts, and a public relations team to provide me with comprehensive support. Your design Drafts are certainly important, but we
need stronger evidence such as the
precise method of plagiarism. Julian's tone was calm, yet it carried an undeniable authority.
he had people
Investigate Chloe's company system and found a backup file that had long been deleted. This was the original data Ethan had copied from my computer, including timestamps and data sources. At the same time, he also legally retrieved the judging records from the competition organizer, discovering that Chloe's submitted design had time
discrepancies that made it impossible to
explain away. Julian even found Ethan's former assistant, since the assistant had been fired by the company some time ago. He harbored deep resentment towards Ethan and was willing to provide more insider information, including how the plagiarism was carried out and specific details on how submission times were falsified. Evidence alone isn't enough. We need to convince the public, Julian said. He contacted well-known gaming media and coasts to release my design concepts and achievements in advance, allowing the public to gain initial recognition of my work.
At the
same time, his public relations team formulated a media strategy.
At the
press conference, the focus of the revelation would be on Chloe's plagiarism rather than my personal grievances to gain public support. Rest assured, I won't let these people have a chance to turn the tables. After finished speaking, he handed me a complete press conference schedule, even including potential questions I might be asked and their corresponding answers. As I looked at these documents, a mix of emotions turned within me. I'll be hosting our family's annual gala in 3 days. You can do what you want then. From the moment he learned the truth, Julian began to help me with practical actions. I had thought it was just a casual offer of help, but I never expected him to be so serious and dedicated. He had even considered the details I was most worried about, and specifically arranged for a professional PR team to ensure that even if Chloe and Ethan tried to retaliate, I wouldn't be attacked by public opinion.
My heart was
filled with complex emotions.
Besides my
anger towards Chloe and Ethan, a deep sense of gratitude surged in my chest. Julian, I murmured his name, turning to look at the man who was flipping through documents. His long fingers casually turned the pages of a stack of documents, as if everything was under his control. The night was quiet. The cold wind carried a faint scent of plants as I put on my coat and walked onto the balcony, trying to calm the turbulent emotions in my hair. The gala was in 3 days, and I knew it would be an incredibly difficult confrontation. Julian also walked out at some point. He was dressed in loungewear, relaxed yet elegant. He held a cup of warm milk and extended it to
me.
Drink this if you can't sleep.
I
took the milk and said, "Thank you," softly. After a moment of silence, I couldn't help but speak. Do you think I can really win tomorrow? I'm nervous, but I want them to get their deserved retribution even more. But if I fail, I choked on my words mid-sentence, and my hand clutching the milk cup trembled slightly. Julian stood beside me, his gaze gentle yet resolute. He didn't rush to speak, but waited for me to calm down a bit before saying softly, "It's normal to be nervous, but you're not fighting alone. The evidence already proves your talent and the truth. You just need to present them." He moved a little closer, his voice carrying a hint of determination. "From now on, I'm behind you, no matter what they say or do tomorrow. Just walk forward. Don't look back, because I've got your back." His tone wasn't deliberately sentimental, but that steady strength made me feel as if I had found my strongest pillar of support. I turned my head to look at him, suddenly finding his presence more reliable than ever
Before.
Go fight, he said softly, a slight smile playing on his lips.
Not.
Just for yourself, but for all those creators who have been deprived of their opportunities, and their ending will be written by you. His words made my heart tremble, and the confusion born from anxiety instantly dissipated. Thank you, I said softly, a new fighting spirit igniting in my eyes. Julian gently patted my shoulder, then turned and returned to his room, leaving me in the cool breeze, holding the gradually cooling milk, feeling an unprecedented sense of security and resolve. Julian carefully selected a significant occasion within the industry, his own annual gala, inviting countless big names and media from the gaming industry. The dazzling lights illuminated the luxurious atmosphere of the venue. Celebrities gathered, and laughter and chatter filled the air.
I
Wore a simple yet elegant gown and entered the venue with Julian instantly, drawing everyone's attention. Sister, you're here too? A familiar sugary voice rang out.
Chloe approached
Gracefully, holding a glass of champagne, a harmless smile on her face. And Ethan was beside her. Since I blocked Ethan's contact information, these two had become even more blatant. This is Julian's place. Why can't I be here? I gave a cold smile, not flinching from her gaze. Chloe seemingly casually sighed, her tone aggrieved.
I
know you're still angry, but we are sisters after all. I know I made mistakes before. Can you forgive me?
My
depression has been acting up again recently. Her voice wasn't loud, but it attracted the attention of many onlookers. The surrounding guests turned their gazes towards us, seemingly awaiting a dramatic unfolding.
Depression?
I raised an eyebrow, a mocking sneer forming on my lips.
Are
you saying stealing my designs, taking credit for my achievements, and weaving a web of lies can all be explained by depression? Chloe's face stiffened, but soon her eyes re-eamed as she feigned a pitiful look. Sister, I never stole anything from you. I just borrowed a few ideas. Besides, you haven't suffered any substantial loss. A few people around seemed moved by her apparent fragility, whispering amongst themselves, isn't she a depression patient? This sister is being far too aggressive. Ethan looked at Chloe's precarious appearance, his eyes filled with unbearable heartache, and he yelled at me, Audrey, are you
done yet?
Your sisters? What difference does it make who becomes famous? Hearing those words, I sneered inwardly. I had long grown used to Chloe's faint victim image and Ethan's disgusting facade. But this time I wouldn't stay
silent.
I didn't continue to argue with
them.
Instead, I changed the subject.
I
heard your new game launch was very successful recently. Are you here at the gala today to celebrate that?
Chloe
froze for a moment, then smiled. Yes, I poured a lot of effort into this project, even incorporating some of my own experiences into it. Her answer was flawless. I chuckled softly. Since that's the case, why don't we clarify things today? I straightened my back and nodded at Julian. After seeing my signal, Julian walked to the center of the ballroom. Julian appeared as the host. After raising a toast and giving a speech, he cleverly shifted the attention to me. Tonight, besides thanking everyone for coming, I'd also like to specifically mention a talented independent designer whose work I have always greatly admired. She is Audrey, Chloe's sister. This statement was both a compliment and a clever way to introduce Chloe's name. The attention of the room instantly focused on the two sisters. Chloe sensed something was wrong, and quickly stepped forward to defend herself.
Julian, you're right. I've
Always looked up to my sister as a role model. Although I've achieved some success compared to her, it truly pales in comparison. Julian chuckled softly as if her defense was nothing more than a buzzing fly. Unfortunately, you didn't seem to learn well enough, especially when it comes to plagiarism. Your skills are too crude. Hearing that, the guests began to whisper. Chloe's smile froze. She seemed not to have expected Julian to say it so directly. Julian continued, if it's an original design, then you must be very familiar with the game's core and architecture. Why don't you share some insights? For example, the inspiration for that core level design. I seized the moment and said coldly, strange. How is this design so similar to my previous drafts? Or rather, is this not inspiration, but plagiarism? The people around us erupted in an uproar. Chloe's face changed slightly, but she quickly bit the bullet and retorted, sister,
what do you mean by that?
is it just because I succeeded that you feel jealous? Julian stepped forward and said calmly, whether it's jealousy or not, let's let the evidence speak. He made a gesture and staff immediately turned on the ballroom screen.
A
document appeared on the large screen. It was my original design draft from several months ago, clearly showing key code, architectural diagrams, and timestamps of creative descriptions. These contents were almost identical to Chloe's supposedly original game.
The
evidence on the screen was irrefutable, and Chloe could no longer argue. Her face was pale, her lips trembling.
It's
not like that. This is just a coincidence. Coincidence? Julian
sneered.
If it's a coincidence, then how do you explain this backend data?
The
screen switched again to another report, showing records of Chloe illegally downloading my computer files through a certain device, and that device belonged to Ethan. Chloe completely panicked, frantically trying to defend herself. Incoherently.
No, it was Ethan.
He made me do it. He said, this was how I could overshadow my sister. I just followed his advice. Ethan stared at Chloe, his face filled with disbelief. The eyes of the surrounding crowd were now filled with disdain and anger. Julianne looked coldly at Chloe and said calmly, if you want to pretend to be an angel, you should at least make sure you have the qualifications.
Your so-called talent
and hard work were merely built upon the efforts of others. Now your lies have been completely exposed. Chloe's lips trembled, but she couldn't utter another word. The ballroom erupted in an uproar. Chloe was on the verge of collapse, looking tearfully at Mom and Dad, standing nearby. Mom, Dad, do you believe me? However, Patricia and Robert's faces were complicated, and they remained silent. I knew they understood Chloe was ruined and could no longer bring benefits to the family.
As
for Ethan, his face was grim. He seemed to want a death and himself, but Julian directly interrupted him. Just get out of here. You no longer have the right to appear before Audrey. Ethan opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing and fled in a hurry. The gala ended in chaos, but I knew this revelation was not yet over. Julian's PR team had already released the evidence on social media, and Chloe and Ethan's reputations completely collapsed that night. I stood at the ballroom entrance. Julian gently patted my shoulder. Let's go. Everything that needed to be done has been done. The rest is up to time. I turned to look at him, my heart filled with gratitude.
Thank you, Julian.
Without you, I might not have won so easily.
He smiled
calmly, taking my hand and leaving the
gala.
The day after the gala, several Well-known gaming media outlets followed up with reports disclosing Chloe's theft of my design and Ethan's infidelity.
As
The company's general manager, Ethan, could not escape responsibility. After the incident escalated, the influential figures in the gaming industry began to jointly boycott him, including some experienced developers who had previously worked with him, publicly stating, "We will no longer have any business dealings with Ethan or Chloe." Ethan's company lost its collaborative resources and several important projects in preparation were suspended. Investors successfully withdrew their funds. In just 1 week, the company's stock price plummeted by 70%, nearing bankruptcy. Finally, his partners under pressure kicked him off the board.
Chloe
Was undoubtedly severely affected by this storm, but she didn't choose to suffer through it with Ethan.
on the
Contrary, the first thing she did after the truth came out was to push all the blame onto Ethan, trying to detach herself from the situation. "He made me do it." He said that if we did this, we could overshadow her and become the top design team. Chloe didn't hesitate to throw dirt during her media interview, even implying that Ethan had emotional manipulated her. These words completely infuriated Ethan. Their relationship was no longer one of mutual affection. They completely broke up. After Spain, depression and plagiarism of others' ideas were exposed. Netizens uncovered that Chloe had not only stolen designs but also had a history of using her position to suppress competitors in the industry on multiple occasions.
some
Small teams she had suppressed previously came forward, exposing her shameless acts. Your success, achieved through plagiarism and threats, is nothing more than a sand castle, which will eventually be washed away by the
tide.
This was the public's final verdict on her. Videos of her proudly accepting interviews circulated online, accompanied by sarcastic comments from netizens.
Once arrogant, now a
Laughingstock. The exposure of Ethan and Chloe's incident not only brought me justice, but also brought unprecedented attention to the original game development field. People began to reevaluate the value of independent game designers, and my game received more anticipation and support. As a result, I incorporated my design philosophy into my new work, and the release game quickly became a huge hit. Not only did it set sales records, but it also became a phenomenal work in the industry. Countless players left comments saying, "We've finally seen a truly deep independent game." Julian gave me comprehensive support during this
time.
He not only helped me build a top-tier development team, but also paved the way for me in distribution channels. I did not disappoint his expectations, continuously releasing excellent works through my own efforts, gradually becoming a leading figure in the industry. Those who once looked down on me began to see me in a new light, while those who had been deceived by Chloe felt regret and guilt for me. One day, Julian and I were resting in the small garden outside the office. I watched the setting sun and suddenly asked him why. "Did you help me?" Julian was silent for a moment, his eyes gentle, and then spoke
Slowly.
"I saw you in college. You were confident and strong then, with a light in your eyes. The kind of person who could draw everyone's attention just by standing there. I thought you would always forge your own path. But later I heard you gave up all your opportunities for your boyfriend and sister and faded into their shadows. I truly felt it wasn't worth it." He paused and chuckled softly. "I wanted to see if you would seize it, given another chance." A moment later, he looked up at me, his tone serious, but later I found myself gradually falling for you. "So now I want to ask you, would you consider being with me? I looked at him, his eyes filled with anticipation and tenderness. Everything he had done for me flashed through my mind. My heart was touched in a way I couldn't explain. Although I didn't immediately agree, I knew I was slowly growing to rely on him. Just as I was starting my new life, Ethan appeared. He didn't know where he got my address from. His expression was haggard as he fell to his knees. His voice choked with sobs. I'm sorry, Audrey. I was really wrong. I only pitied her back then. How could you just marry anyone? His voice was full of pleading, but my heart had already hardened. The past hurts were vivid in my mind. Whether his threats or his betrayal, it made it impossible for me to tolerate him any longer. Ethan, do you think kneeling will fix everything? I chuckled softly. Don't worry, I just got officially married, but we haven't had the wedding yet. Ethan froze at my familiar words. Just as he was about to speak, a low voice sounded from behind me. So I don't have an official title. I turned my head to see Julian slowly descending the stairs, wrapped only in a bath towel. He casually yet possessively wrapped an arm around my waist. Audrey, give me an explanation. Ethan looked at us, his face instantly turning ashen. Ignoring his expression, I slammed the door shut. I quickly wrapped my arms around Julian's neck and chuckled. Of course not. Julian is my only husband. One afternoon, I lay comfortably in Julian's arms, enjoying the strawberries he fed me. When I saw that Chloe had actually been imprisoned, it turned out Ethan had directed all his rage at Chloe, believing she was responsible for him losing everything, and went to Chloe's place to make a scene. However, Chloe had already lost her sanity after her career collapsed. She not only suffered from cyber bullying, but even her family, utterly disappointed, completely abandoned her. She couldn't accept her own failure, much less the reality of being despised by everyone. I still remember when Chloe, in a heated argument with Ethan, lost control and stabbed him. Blood splattered across the entire room as Ethan collapsed, groaning in pain. After neighbors heard the commotion and called the police, he was rushed to the hospital, barely escaping with his life. Chloe was sentenced for intentional assault and ultimately was imprisoned. From that point on, the couple, who once believed they could control everything, plummeted into despair, becoming a constant source of gossip and ridicule. I stood at the launch event for the new game I designed, watching the bustling crowd, the sound of enthusiastic applause filling my ears. Countless people applauded my work, yet my gaze was fixed only on the man who had always stood by me in the corner. Julian stood there smiling at me, his eyes full of trust and pride. All that pain, all that betrayal had long become a thing of the past. Now I had my own career, had found my true confidence and worth, and had someone who would always protect me. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Dilemma Diaries, for more exciting stories.